This is the RamanaMaharshi Satsang. I'm reading and commenting on the Ashtavakra Gita. Listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm not a guru or a teacher. Ramana's teaching of non-duality is deep and profound, and I want to share it. I'm reading from and commenting on the Ashtavakra Gita, an important text of Advaita. Today, chapter 18, verses 37 through 40. This chapter is about the peace of a sage. Because he desires to know God, the ignorant man can never become that. The wise man is God because he is free of desire and knows nothing. Unable to stand steady and eager for salvation, the ignorant perpetuate the illusion of world, seeing the world as the source of all misery. The wise cut it off at the root. The fool thinks peace comes by controlling the mind. He will never attain it. The wise one knows truth and is stillness itself. For he who thinks knowledge is things and ideas, how can there be self-knowledge? The wise do not see separate things, only the timeless self. So let's break down these verses. 1837. Because he desires to know God, the ignorant man can never become that. The wise man is God because he is free of desire and knows nothing. This verse points to a simple but often overlooked truth. The more you chase after the self as if it were something external to acquire, the further you move from it. The desire to know God as an object keeps the idea of separation alive. The wise no longer cling to ideas or ambitions about the self, free of concepts and restless searching. The wise one abides as pure being. The absence of craving is itself the recognition of what you already are. This verse offers you a powerful reminder that the self cannot be an object of knowledge because you are already that, the self. The moment you place the self in front of you as something to be gained or discovered at some other time, you set up a division that keeps it hidden. Desire, even for something noble like knowing God, is still movement away from being. The wise have stopped chasing and allowed everything, even spiritual ambition, to fall silent. In this stillness, the self reveals itself as what was never absent. For your own practice, notice how even subtle spiritual desires sustain the illusion of a seeker separate from what is sought. 1838. Unable to stand steady and eager for salvation, the ignorant perpetuate the illusion of world. Seeing the world as the source of all misery, the wise cut it off at the root. Here you're shown how a restless, unexamined mind keeps feeding the appearance of separateness and suffering. The person chasing salvation imagine it lies in some future condition, reinforcing the belief in a world apart from the self. The wise one, recognizing that misery springs from clinging to appearances and concepts, withdraws interest from what is transient and unreal. By no longer giving attention to the temporary, peace naturally reveals itself. This verse speaks directly to seeing how restlessness and spiritual seeking, if left unchecked, keeps you caught in appearances. The person eager for salvation often imagines it will come within the world or through perfected conditions. And so the mind keeps projecting images, circumstances, and futures. The wise see clearly it is not the appearances themselves, but your belief in them as real and meaningful that binds you. Misery arises because of taking these fleeting things to be your identity. Cutting it off at the root means turning attention inward, questioning the one who suffers, and abiding as the formless self. This isn't denial of the world, but recognition of its fleeting and insubstantial nature. 1839. The fool thinks peace comes by controlling the mind. He will never attain it. The wise one knows truth and is stillness itself. This verse makes it clear that peace isn't a prize to be won by forcing the mind into silence. Trying to control thoughts only strengthens the sense of a doer. The wise recognize that true stillness isn't created, it's already present when you no longer identify with the movements of the mind. Stillness isn't the absence of thought, but the unchanging presence in which thoughts appear and dissolve. Knowing this, the why remain untouched by the play of mental activity. For those who practice meditation or inquiry, this verse is vital. Many exhaust themselves in trying to suppress thoughts or emotions, believing peace will arrive once the mind behaves. But peace isn't something achieved through manipulation. It's the natural ground of your being. Thoughts appear and disappear like waves, but the ocean of awareness remains untouched. The wise have recognized that awareness is never altered by what moves within it. When you stop identifying with the personal effort to control, you begin to sense the stillness that has always been quietly present beneath every mental ripple. For your practice, notice the difference between effortful stillness and the effortless presence of the self. 1840. For he who thinks knowledge is things and ideas, how can there be self-knowledge? The wise do not see separate things, only the timeless self. This verse points out that what most people call knowledge, facts, ideas, and concepts, is not self-knowledge. The more you fill your mind with labels and distinctions, the more you feel distant from your true nature. The wise, having seen through the unreliability of mental concepts, no longer concern themselves with dividing the world into parts. They perceive only the undivided self, which was never made up of separate things to begin with. It's not about accumulating ideas, but resting in what is beyond them. Ashtavakra gently reminds you that the intellect, with all its categories and definitions, can never touch the self. Conceptual knowledge divides and compares, while self-knowledge reveals what is beyond division. The wise have no need to count or classify appearances. They rest in the indivisible, silent awareness in which all names and forms arise. This awareness does not fluctuate with the changing scenes of life. It isn't known by the mind, but is the background in which the mind itself arises. In your practice, you're invited to drop the habit of naming, judging, and dividing, and to notice the constant presence that remains when everything else changes. The verses we've explored show how peace and self-knowledge aren't reached through effort, desire, or intellectual understanding. They gently remind you that when seeking and mental labeling fall away, what remains is your natural, ever-present being, timeless, changeless, and free. And now we have a satsang discourse by Nome, self-knowledge.
Self-knowledge. It is necessary for happiness. It is essential for immortality. It transcends sensory perception, which pertains only to the body and objects of the world, all of which are experienced in the mind as if in a dream. It transcends thought. For one thought does not know another. For whom are all the thoughts? Who is the one that knows? Undefined by the body and its attributes, the mind and its conceptions, what are you? The assumed individuality is not actually your nature, your existence. Egoless, what is your existence? Not existing as such a thing, but what is existence itself? It is without beginning and without end, for existence does not cease to exist at any time. Being bodiless, it is birthless and deathless. Unformed, boundaryless, homogeneous. It is. Individualized, not particularized, not an object of perception or conception. You are only Satchidananda, being, consciousness, bliss, of the very nature of Brahman, the immeasurably vast Absolute. As an ego, one cannot realize this. But are you the ego? If not, what remains to be called yourself? Self-knowledge, therefore, is known in, of, and by the self. No other is involved. If to you, you appear otherwise, find out what this you is. Inquire within yourself, who am I? Sri Bhagavan said that the egoless state is the real state, the only real state that there is. An unreal state has no actual existence. The individualized existence or ego seems to be only so long as one does not deeply inquire. If you inquire into this individualized existence, its individuality being unreal will vanish, and what remains is that which is eternal, the infinite, Brahman, the one existence. Know your being as it is, and you know happiness. Indeed, you are the happiness. Of what substance is the knowledge? It is not a perception or a conception. It is only consciousness itself, knowing itself non-objectively. So negate from your sense of identity all that is objective. And inwardly, silently realize the true significance of I. It is only that, Brahman, the true self.
Now we'll take a few minutes and inquire. You exist, and you know that you exist. Inquire, investigate within yourself. What would remain if I stopped seeking? How can I recognize the source of suffering as mistaken identity and release it in this moment? Am I, when I'm not defining myself by roles, thoughts, or ideas? And I notice the stillness in which my thoughts are rising and falling right now. Am I? What am I? All right. And we'll close with our chant. Om.
Shanti.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace,
Peace.
peace. I always feel peaceful when these satsangs are at an end.
Yeah.
Are they at an end, though? I guess I have to ask.
Are they, right?
Ashtavakra keeps calling us to pay attention to what is always there. And when you start to look at that, certainly what is always there is not any of the stuff of the world or the feelings or ideas or the thoughts that we have. All of that is just comes and goes. It's transient. And we know, I think all of us know, because we've looked at this so much now, that there is something that is always there. That's what Aranachala stands for, what is always there.
Mm-hmm. The heart, heart.
Yes. And we are the heart.
Yeah. While I was in California, I was with my son, who's a landscaper and building his landscaping business.
Mm-hmm.
And he had gotten himself a little bit in a predicament because of all his desires and things that he wanted. And through building his business and getting himself out of the financial jam, and telling him, there's nothing in this world that's really going to bring you happiness. But how do you feel right now when you have more peace of mind? That's the gift, the peace of mind. So really pay attention to your desires. And I think when we go through things like this, I know for me, it was like, well, am I going to keep getting kicked? Better start paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's understanding that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
together again today.
Wonderful
And
to be back. Thank you.
namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.